Outlaws. Welcome back to the Middle-Aged Outlaws. We're on episode 70 and we're just completing, we're running over the finish line with our pumpkins on our head as we finish our Halloween Havoc journey up with Halloween Havoc 2000. Can you believe it, Adam?
I can't believe it. I can't believe we've made it.
Like, we've not bitched out and stopped watching them. I think it's the first one have we done that? Is this the first one? It could be.
Maybe. There were. Let's be honest. There were a few moments where I think we probably thought about it, but we made it. Just.
Isn't it amazing that the supposed boom period era of professional wrestling, bro, are the shows that we struggled with?
Yeah, it's weird. It's not what I would have expected. It just seemed like some of the early ones were pretty good, and there were lots of tag teams and exciting stuff going on, and some strange things with, like, you know, some particularly odd characters. But there was some good stuff on those old shows, and then it all just went horribly wrong.
It really did. It really did, and we will get into why very soon. And if you're a fan of Sting, then boy, have we got a show for you. If you just, it's that kind of thing of like listening to you know, when you were younger and you used to get a CD single and you would just listen to the song on repeat through your little mini CD player. That's a bit like what this Sting match with Jeff Jarrett was like. But anyway, we'll get into it. It's the year 2000. What a time to be alive.
Yeah.
18, I think I was.
So I would have turned 20 just be about to turn 20, and I was a student. It was particularly lazy times for me.
Do you ever remember people like freaking out that the world was going to end in that? Because I do not at all.
The only thing I remember about it is at the New Year, my dad, who worked for a council, had to be at work when it basically hit the Millennium New Year, just in case everything failed. Like,
that's crazy.
And you'd hear all these stories about people who were like paid to manually change code from the 2-digit to the 4-digit, which just seems insane now. But yeah, it was. People were I don't know if it was all news frenzy or whatever, but it seemed like people were pretty freaked out about it.
Well, thank the Lord that never happened. Shall we talk about our movie from the year 2000? It's a very year 2000 movie.
It's, yeah.
So it's Final Destination, where we're both pretty delighted that this was the movie we were going to have to watch or talk about. It does that awesome post-Scream thing of just getting a bunch of teens or people who have maybe acted as teens in like your Dawson's Creek and shows like that, and chucking them all in and having them be at the peril of, in this case, death. Stalking them down. It's a great film. Really, really entertaining. Really innovative with its premise. It's essentially death stalking them. And it's good fun. Will I talk through the synopsis?
Go for it.
Got a very short synopsis here on IMDb. Death stalks Alex Browning and a group of high school students who survived a doom airliner. That's
it.
That's it. First of all, will I mention the cast? Because the cast's pretty cool. So we've got Devon Sawa, who is in what's your film? Idle Hands.
Idle Hands. Love that film. Yep.
He was Stan in the Stan video. That's what I remember him from.
Yep.
Ali Larter from Heroes and other things. What's Kerr Smith in? Dawson's Creek.
Kerr Smith was in Dawson's Creek, yeah.
Who else? We got Stifler, obviously.
Yep.
He plays a funny character in this. He's just a bit of dafty.
Yeah, kind of goofy, yeah.
Aye, that's a brilliant way to describe it. And Tony Todd.
Tony Todd?
Tony Todd's like the mortician guy.
Yeah, the guy that's trying to give them some answers.
Yeah. A great role for him to play.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it just works.
So this feels a bit like what you did. I know what you did last summer. And Scream, like I said, it feels a bit
that
like
kind of era. There was another film that sprang to mind for me, but I had to look up when it was. It's a few years after this, but The Butterfly Effect. I was also thinking,
nice,
just sort of similar sort of vibe to this. But like when I first saw this, it wasn't like anything I'd seen before, because when the central character first gets on the plane and sees things start to malfunction on the plane, like I think there's a tray table thing with the loose screw and stuff like that. Just little things not quite working as they should. Does the knob come out of the air thing? And you don't know that what you're watching isn't what's happening at that moment in time. But in fact, the moment where the plane starts to malfunction and is about to crash, and he wakes up, and then he's in the exact position he was in just before, from what you saw. And I hadn't really seen anything like that before. I thought it was great. It was genius.
It really is. And it gets more intense. And I don't remember, probably because I was a lot younger when I would have saw this the first time. I think this is only the second time I've ever seen it. I don't remember him getting so in his head and so obsessed with like cheating death and the patterns and all that. It becomes complete. And you would.
Yeah, of course.
If that happened, to completely mess up your mind.
Yeah. I like so he's basically, he's figuring out as he goes, and he's trying to stop everyone else who ended up coming off the plane with him from dying, and he figures out, there's an order and that they're going to go in and things like that. But at the same time, I think the bit that I maybe didn't follow when I first watched it, that I sort of picked up on more when I watched it again, was there are people thinking he did this, that because he knows about this and because he got off the plane, are they like FBI agents that are questioning him and all that. And I think all I'd really remembered the first time of viewing was, they're just trying to cheat death. But obviously, everyone's getting really freaked out about this guy, like who knew that this was going to happen. And of course you would. So there's like people, I think at a funeral, coming up to him saying things like, when am I going to die? And things like that. Yep. And that side of things, I don't think I properly picked up on the first time I watched it. But of course that would happen in those circumstances.
Yeah. Yeah, there's the two FBI agents that follow him about, and that's quite a good wee sort of part of the story. And then there's the girl that's sort of attracted towards him, played by Ali Larter, who eventually, I think she ends up in the sequel, and she ends up alive at the very end. Kerr Smith, Ali Larter, and unfortunately, poor Stan gets taken out right at the end. Mm-hmm. He didn't deserve that.
There's some good deaths in it, like some, like the way death is catching some of these characters is just quite entertaining, the way it's done. They get a bit more extreme as the sequels go, a bit more bloody, but yeah, that is a really good film.
His best friend, whose brother, he left his brother on the plane. His brother told him to get off. Can't remember his name. Todd, I think his name was. Mm-hmm. His death is particularly horrible, where there's sort of water trickling, following him in the bathroom floor. He slips on it and ends up landing on a wire that's got clothes hanging up on it. And it's going round and round. Oh, it's disgusting. Horrible. It's really entertaining film. I think I've seen this. I've definitely seen the second one. Everybody's seen the second one, surely, with the logs. Yeah. And every time you drive down the motorway and see logs, that's what you think of.
Yep.
I think there's 5 of them. I
have seen them all. So there's one that came out, I was going to say not that long ago, but it'll be quite a while ago now.
20 years ago.
And I think it was called The Final Destination. And it was the sort of end one. I remember the third one's on a roller coaster. It's got Mary Elizabeth Winstead in it.
Nice.
I can't remember much about the fourth one. I think I remember thinking, are they just getting gradually worse and worse? But I think maybe the fourth one might be like a NASCAR track or something like that. But yeah, they're all entertaining, and they're kind of almost at risk of playing it for laughs as you get towards the end because some of the deaths, so you can't not be entertained by them the way they're done.
Funny, I was watching it, and my wife she hates horror films, but I wouldn't describe this as horror anyway, would you?
Not really. No.
But she was popping in and out, and there's a scene where the four remaining characters are stuck in a car, and Kerr Smith's character's like, let's see if you can cheat death this time. So he's got them parked on the train track, coming along, and eventually they get everybody out of the car and everything like that. But then, because they did that, it jumps to Sean William Scott, and something just ricochets up and chops his head off, and it's just his body, headless body left, and it falls to his knees, and she was like, what's this you're watching?
Nice.
Definitely recommended. Really good film.
Yeah, agreed.
I was going to say to you, in the trivia on IMDb here, it says that the story was originally going to be the concept for an episode of The X-Files.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I'm glad they did what they did with it.
Aye, absolutely. You can see how that fits in with the X-Files.
Yeah.
It was inspired by something called the Soul Survivor. In this movie, a woman who was a sole survivor of a plane crash starts to be haunted by dead people that death uses temporarily as vessels trying to kill her. Also sounds relatively intriguing.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen a film that sounds a bit like that, so I'm wondering if that got made in the end as well.
Yeah, that's an 80s film.
Okay.
1984. There we go.
I've seen one called Soul Survivors. Which was 2001.
Was Akon and Young Jeezy in it?
Tiny little Casey Affleck.
Yes.
And Elijah Dushk.
Nice. When was this made?
2001.
Nice. There you go. Add that to the list.
I've seen that. And it's similar. It's not the same, but it is similar.
Okay. Going across the years from 1989 to 2000, of the movies you've watched, you got a favourite of what we've watched and discussed across the piece?
Now, that's a tricky question. So, like you've
prior
got,
warning on.
You've got, I love Final Destination. You've got like Misery, which is a sort of classic. But what was that? What was that really fun like anthology film that we watched?
Body Bags. John Carpenter's.
I really enjoyed that. That was maybe my pleasant surprise through the whole thing.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
It was never seen it before. 3 outrageous stories. Stacey Keach with the hair, just amazing.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay, let's talk WCW. So last time we spoke, Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara, it was their first pay-per-view in charge, and it was creatively a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
We didn't enjoy it. Fair to say?
Yep. Yeah.
By now, since the last pay-per-view, Bret Hart has had to retire due to Goldberg kicking him in the head. Mm-hmm. Kevin Nash seems to be a coach Kevin Nash. We've managed to run Bobby the Brain Heenan out at WCW somewhere or other. But really, things have went downhill dramatically, it seems.
Yeah.
In the period.
Bad to worse.
Yeah. So we're back in the MGM Grand, 4th year in a row. Surprisingly, I really enjoyed the video package they did to open this. It felt quite modern. I don't know if you remember.
I thought it really looked like a WWE video package.
So did I. Aye.
Yeah. In a good way, I think. I mean, it's a shame we're not getting any more like Tony Schiavone haunted house, skits to open things up. But yeah, as a video package, I thought pretty good.
Yeah, same. Immediately, we see the sort of modernisation of WCW with their spaceship logo, which looks guff. We've got no gargoyle or giant pumpkin or anything like that. We're up to the stage, sort of space age stage looking thing.
Yeah, I think the actual logo for WCW is the one, I think it gets referred to as the vagina logo.
Oh, wow. Right.
And I looked at it this time and thought, I think I can see where the name comes from.
I've never heard that before. I've heard spaceship and UFO, but okay, that's a new one. And they've got away from the cool classic Halloween Havoc logo as well. And I think what it looks like is they've tried to replicate the Attitude WWF Attitude thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Our opener is for the World Tag Team titles. It's the Boogie Nights, which consists of Disco and Alex Wright.
Yep.
Jindrak and O'Hare. Versus Jindrak and O'Hare versus the Filthy Animals, which was Ray and who? Kidman.
Kidman. Yep.
How did you enjoy this opening bout?
So I felt like very, very quickly very confused.
Oh.
In that there's reference to, the Boogie Nights thought they'd won the titles a couple of nights before or the night before. But some guy called Mike Sanders got involved. And at this point, I wasn't really getting clarity on who Mike Sanders was really supposed to be. So I was a little bit confused. And I don't think, was this the first time were Jindrak and O'Hare on the last one?
Nah.
Nah. And I thought, well, are they aligned with this Mike Sanders guy? I was trying to get it all clear in my head, and I didn't think it did the, give you a wee package to just get you fully up to speed thing. And I have to talk about the announce team as well here. right
as
from
good
the
as
off.
Time as any.
Because we've got Tony Schiavone, who's been, I think, pretty much a constant all the way through. He might not have been announcing on one or two of the early ones, but he was there. He was like doing segments or something. We've got Stevie Ray, so Booker T's brother from Harlem Heat on the co-commentary duties.
My God!
And we've also got Mark Madden, who is going to get himself very, very involved as we go through. Now, I think it's Mark Madden that I'm having to take issue with quite early on here. And I assume he's intending to just rile people. But he seems to be calling Jindrak and O'Hare from very early on, initially the new Arn and Ole Anderson. And then all the way through, is comparing them to all these great tag teams and calling them one of the greatest tag teams in history. It got pretty old pretty quick for me.
Yeah. And I don't think Stevie Day was enjoying it.
No.
Given the Harlem Heat connection.
I was thinking we were in trouble right from the start because I think Tony Schiavone is all suited and booted and the other two guys are kind of wearing like Hawaiian shirt type things, and I thought this isn't a team. This isn't an announced team. It's not going to work.
Stevie Ray, that's his. I don't know. I feel like he's owning it. What he's wearing, he looks cool. And that Mark Madden just looks ridiculous. He's got shades on. He looks like a buffoon.
Yeah.
Can we maybe talk about Madden throughout? Because some of the things that he says during some of the matches is unbelievable. Anyway, personally, some highlights for me: Rey Mysterio, the Devil Horns, quite a look. Bald-headed Alex Wright, looks like an animal. Sean O'Hare was good in the ring, massive and good.
I can't quite, I struggle to believe this happens with a few guys, and I know that, Jindrak and O'Hare, I think, were ones that when they moved across, I thought they are going to be huge, because you know that gif with when Vince is seeing Stacey Keibler do the thing. He's doing the same when he's seeing Jindrak and O'Hare, surely.
Well, come Invasion time, it was Palumbo and O'Hare that were the tag team.
Yeah.
Because I thought the same, and then Palumbo came out later, and I was like, oh, it's him and him. But they gave off the same sort of vibe as like sort of young buck type, like raw, strong. Not like the Young Bucks, but I mean like young, big, strong guys going to war sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Vince must have saw the two boys, or the three guys, and been like, oh. Just started twiddling at his imaginary moustache. What about Kit? Sorry, go on.
I was going to say as well, I think Conan comes and joins the announcers here.
Yes.
And Conan is aligned with the Filthy Animals.
Yes.
Is there a suggestion that Disco Inferno has been aligned with the Filthy Animals?
Yes, there was, yep.
Which seemed like such a weird fit to me. I was trying to get used to... We'd said before, Disco and Alex Wright, two dancers on the show, that's too many, just, and then they did align them, and we were I think, going through the cards after last week's show being like, yeah, of course.
That works.
But Alex Wright still seems to have, and maybe has gone even further into the look for what he was before, but he's dancing. It felt a bit strange.
The Berlin gimmick.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he looked... He's a funny character. He's good in the ring, actually.
He is. Yeah.
He looked good with the bald head. He's huge. Really strangely used.
Yeah.
Billy Kidman does a move called the Kid Crusher.
Yeah.
Which I was a bit concerned about. Yeah. Who's he using that on? I like... do you know what? This is a weird thing, but I don't normally like big guys doing a swanton bomb. It annoys me. I think it's silly because they're huge. They could do like a power bomb or whatever, but Sean O'Hare pulls it off, I think.
It kind of works. Yeah. I think there's something, because he's obviously big, he looks incredible, in terms of the condition he's in, but he does have that athletic look as well, and I think it can work. You wouldn't want everyone doing it. You wouldn't want many of them doing it, because I think you want it to really stand out when someone is doing it. But I think he made it work.
Yeah, totally. Kevin Owens does it, and I always think it looks silly. Wardlow in AEW does it as well. And it's like you're a giant guy, and you're just sort of landing with your head just over him. Anyway. I thought it was an alright match to start off a card. It was exciting, which is something that we've complained about in the past.
It was okay. I think all I was looking for at the start was some clarity. I think they tried to give it, but I even came away from this thinking, Mike Sanders. What role is this Mike Sanders in?
And you wish you never thought that. I wish you never heard of Mike Sanders.
I'm gonna find out the hard way a little bit later on.
After the Swanton bomb, I think O'Hare and Jindrak retain their titles. It's at this point that Stevie Ray starts shouting "My God" over and over again. It's like, all right, mate, we get it. There's a big brawl afterwards, and Sergeant AWOL comes out to help out.
Yeah. So Conan tries, because they're going after Rey Mysterio, I think.
Yeah.
And Conan gets in to try and help out and just ends up getting absolutely destroyed. And I was thinking, has he got a real injury here that they're looking to try and play off? But then again, nah, it's going to be fine later on. Sergeant AWOL, I was thinking, this guy seems a bit of a character.
So he was aligned with who? It's really difficult. There's like everybody's in a faction. He was aligned
so
with some of them.
The Misfits in action. So there's a tag match a bit later on. And it's funny because it all kind of runs together, because you've got Sergeant AWOL coming out here to try and make the save. And And then you've got, again, more nonsense by Madden comparing Jindraken O'Hare to greatest teams ever. But then we go straight into a hardcore title match, and Sergeant AWOL's already out, and he's the challenger in this match.
Yeah. Right, I've got a confession to make about WCW's Hardcore Championship. I quite like it.
Oh.
I like that. Now, I remember watching a pay-per-view that you and I watched with a hardcore title match, Undertaker versus Rob Van Dam.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like no run-ins, no Jerry Briscoe pinning somebody asleep or anything like that. It was just a hardcore match. It was like its own isolated match where anything goes.
Mm-hmm.
And if WCW had been adequately booked by anyone, then this match would have sat alone as a hardcore match. Ultimately, that doesn't happen because we'll talk about that later in the show. But I like that there's no running aspect of it, and it's just two guys and they're just having a hardcore
There's
match.
no like 24/7 rule. There's no nonsense shenanigans. There's no additional challengers just running into the ring and getting involved and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't mind the match. And I'd actually watched the Thunder beforehand, and I'd watched another one. It was Reno versus Kiwi? Kiwi? Does that ring a bell with you?
It doesn't. I was going to see if I could look it up, but no.
It was quite a good match as well. And it was just, I think it just felt because it was its own little isolated division.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of it?
I thought it was a bit of a mess. I think there's a reference. I think one of the announcers says something like it's old school hardcore rules in place here, which I think meant falls count anywhere, no count out, obviously, no DQ. But I think there was just too much, see when the stuff gets brought out, I kind of go a bit,
trash cans.
Yeah. They're referencing, I think from quite early on, the Misfits in Action. And it probably made me overly prep for a run-in. I was thinking, something will happen. I've got a note about a really bad joke or pun by Madden again here as well, because there's somewhere in the back and there's an attempt to one of them to hit the other with a laptop, and Madden says, "I always said the internet would destroy wrestling."
I thought it was quite a good line.
Come on, man.
Schiavone follows up with, he couldn't get online or something like that, and I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
2000s internet references are never good. They don't date well.
It goes I think there was. I think I felt like it went on too long as well. This
it did a wee bit. If he'd not moved when he launched that PC monitor at me, we'd have killed him.
Yeah,
I just thought it was quite amusing. There's also a point where they're running through the gorilla position, and one of them just nails Fit Finlay for absolutely no reason.
Perfect. He's just
sitting there with a headset on. Exactly. Quite funny.
There was see the finish. One of them's trying to set up a table, and they can't get it set. I assume it was supposed to set up because he then kind of puts them through a half collapsed table that I think just as soon as there's contact, immediately just flattens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Reno retains by Crossroads on a flat table on the floor. Palumbo and Sean Stasiak come out to help beat up Sergeant AWOL after that, and then your Misfits in Action, Captain Cajun, and what on earth were they called? Chavo Guerrero,
Lieutenant Loco.
Yeah, they come out to help AWOL.
Yeah.
Sean Stasiak's funny, eh?
I can only ever think of him in his
Sunday night meat.
I feel a bit bad for him. The whole meat thing. I mean, what can you? How do you ever recover from that?
Isn't his dad like a bit of a pioneer, a bit of a legend?
Stan Stasiak, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah.
She's got this giant buffoon of a son.
There's a reference as well. I think this is where Shane Douglas is out, and or I can't remember if this is out of the ring or backstage, but he's delighted with the Natural Born Thrillers for taking out Conan. And is this where he's referencing Coach Nash for the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I obviously I didn't. As soon as I heard it, I thought, all right, okay, what is it they're doing with Nash? What is he? What is he here? And is he just supposed to be like a guy that's influencing some of these other guys?
So he's supposed, well, either call him coach. He seemed to be like a mentor for this group that had Stasiak and Palumbo and them in it. On the Thunder that I watched, they were saying that Stasiak wasn't pulling his weight, and they pretended to paddle him on the arse, and like you could just tell Nash was absolutely loving it, just right up his street to be like getting involved in sort of frat boy behaviour. So it was a bit odd.
Poor me. I just assumed it had all just gone wrong when he joined WWE, but
apparently not.
Did we saw him like was he aligned with Stacy Keibler, and did he beat Bam Bam Bigelow or something like that? And we were a wee bit furious that he'd got a win or something like that.
On the last Nitro, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
It was a tattoo match. If Bigelow won, he got a tattoo.
Yeah.
Shocking. I always think it's funny that at WrestleMania 17 they show what's supposed to be like this crowd of WCW wrestlers sitting in Shane McMahon's box, and it shows Sean Stasiak sitting, and you're like, God, is that what they've got? Is it excellent?
Yeah.
They go on backstage. They're talking about Goldberg's streak, and at this point, I was really confused because the finger poke of doom had not long.
Yeah,
had been already, and it was before that Nash had beat Goldberg, but he was something like 13-0. They'd obviously like rolled back the good times and went with it again.
I remember there being a thing, or hearing about there being a thing where it was, I think it was maybe a program after the whole thing with, or in the build up to the him and Sid thing. So they did a streak for Sid as well, and it was like Battle of the Streaks or something like that. But when I hear it, remember when it was like 100 and something and 0 or something, and when you hear it here as 13-0, you're thinking, well, like, there's got to be a few guys that are on a bit of a streak like that.
Can you imagine if Rock had beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania 30, and then at WrestleMania 31 Undertaker won, and they were like, 1-0! He's going again. We're backstage with Kronik. They tell some officials that Goldberg won't be here tonight. There's been some shenanigans where Goldberg's been dropped on his head a few times, I think, in the run-up to the show. And they're telling the officials that if he does turn up, they shouldn't clear him because he's got neck and head issues.
I couldn't force myself to care about anything Goldberg related. Wow.
Did we bury him far too much in the last podcast?
Just I've never been a big fan, but having known that the last show and this show, what happened with Bret Hart in between, I'm just like, shouldn't be in the business. Shouldn't be there. Yeah.
Did you see him speeding someone at the Falcons game the last weekend?
No.
He speared some guy on the pitch at the Falcons game to get the crowd riled up before the match. Still got it. The next match is an impromptu match off the back of what's happened at the end of the hardcore match. So it's the perfect event, which I never understood why they're called that. Stasiak and Palumbo taking on the Misfits in action. Whatever you said, the Lieutenant Loco and Captain Cajun. Yeah, this was not good. I didn't enjoy it. I quite like Palumbo. I think that's about it.
Yeah, I've got in my notes, I always liked Palumbo. He's got something. He had a good look. I thought he was a decent warrior, probably the best. the best on show in terms of what they actually showed. I think we all know Chavo Guerrero's a very good worker, but there just wasn't an awful lot there.
No. It's funny that they called him Lieutenant Loco when, like, throughout 1998, it was Chavo. It's bizarre. Mm-hmm. But then I suppose they do that all the time in wrestling.
Yeah. They seem to be teasing some issues between Palumbo and Stasiak. Like, there's like a miscommunication where they each have a man in the corner, and Palumbo seems to want them to, I assume, propel them into each other or something like that. And Stasiak's kind of not really getting the message, and he's up on the turnbuckle doing punches. And
it's really bad. They do a spot like how you're describing, where Palumbo's going to nail Stasiak, but the setup for it, you can see it coming from a mile away.
Yeah.
There's a bit during this match where Madden is sort of taunting Chavo by calling him Chavito. And he's saying it, and they're like, was it this one where Stevie Ray goes, "Did you just say that on live television?"
I think so, yeah.
It's really weird.
Oh,
I wonder if his sort of character was supposed to be like break the fourth wall and talk about all the things that he talks about, or just really ignorant and stupid,
and just came across incredibly annoying.
I don't even have who won this match, I'm afraid.
It was the MIA after the sort of mix-up between Palumbo and Stasiak, I think. So Palumbo catches Stasiak with a big boot, and then there's a DDT on Stasiak, and they get the win, the MIA.
Nice. There you go. No doubt the issues between Stasiak and the rest of Coach Nash's group will continue. Maybe we'll get paddled for real this time.
Yeah.
It's all very dazed and confused behaviour. The hits just keep on coming. It just gets worse and worse. The next match is a mixed gender tag team match between the franchise, Shane Douglas and Tori Wilson, wearing a Wonder Woman outfit.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
And they're taking on Conan and Tigress.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with Tigress.
So Tigress was a Nitro girl, and apparently Russo had a blueprint where he wanted to give all the Nitro girls characters.
Okay. There was one thing that confused. Well, I hated the thought of an intergender match right from the start. I wasn't sold on this, but there was one thing that was bugging me right from the start. I think we've just gone from a backstage moment where Conan is telling the rest of the filthy animals, "I'm going out there, no matter what, doesn't matter, don't care." Then his partner from the same faction as he is in, who fair enough wasn't there listening to that, Tigress, comes out on her own and fully, is willing to take on the challenge of fighting both of them. But, if Conan's just back there, they not give her a tap on the shoulder and be like, I am coming. I'll be there. Don't worry. It's all good. But no, she was willing to go out there and fight on her own. Credit to her for that, but I just found it a little bit strange. I get it when it's like an unusual partner, like, I'm relying on this guy that I don't really have an association with, but when they're in the same faction, you would have thought that just a quick chat backstage.
We chat backstage. Yeah. And she would have saw him getting injured, so natural thing to do would be check in.
Oh yeah.
Make sure he's fine. We're going out there. I'll take Tori. You take Franchise. Okay.
But this is Terry Taylor's fault. Yeah.
Let's blame the Rooster. Yeah. Yeah, Russo's got a concussion and he's not there, so yeah. Like you say, Tigress says, doesn't matter if Conan's coming or not, I'm ready to whoop ass, is what she says.
Mm-hmm.
Good for her. Unfortunately, Douglas and Tori take her at her word and just beat her down.
Yeah.
Conan appears from nowhere. His back does not seem to be bothering him one jot.
Yeah, he's fine.
He mounts a comeback. Back seems fine as he's rolling about all over the shop. Doing
Cannonball, clothesline, all that. Yeah.
At one point, Mark Madden refers to Tigress as a rat.
That's not great.
Shocking. Absolutely shocking. I felt for Charles Robinson in this match. He had quite a hard time.
Yeah.
Last time we saw Rick, he witnessed Ric Flair being murdered. This time he's just having his authority murdered. There's no rules, it seems.
Yeah. This is another one I've got in my notes. This has just gone on for far too long. Just end it.
The only real thing worth talking about in this match is, well, there's two things. Tigress goes to do a Bronco Buster on Tori, and Tori pulls Charles Robinson on top of her. Tigress has got enough time to check her watch, eat her dinner, and watch an episode of something, and still notice this, but she still just does it anyway.
Yeah. Maybe I had a soft spot for Charles.
She might have done. And just the worst thing ever is Tori doing Shane Douglas's finishing move on Conan, and Conan fully taking it and selling it.
Yeah.
That made me angry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah.
Tigress and Conan get the job done with a double X Factor on Douglas, which looks absolute guff.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
Just have Conan do something himself on Douglas and finish it.
Just have the women fight the women and the guy fight the guy.
Yeah.
That's nice and simple. Because at times Douglas is laying it in on Tigress, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A little bit uncomfortable to watch that kind of thing.
A wee bit.
Oh no.
Yes. So backstage with Mean Gene, he's with David Flair, and if you had closed your eyes, you would have thought this was Ric Flair talking. I could not believe how much he sounded like Ric Flair. We're talking about DNA tests. I've got here in my notes. Definitely no DNA test required for David Flair.
Nice.
Were you shocked by that, or that?
Not really. No, I thought I hated this whole thing, but it was it came across. He came across. I thought, okay. I mean, here he came across okay. There's some ridiculous moments. I feel like I'll need to backtrack a little bit about something I've said in the past.
Oh, about David Flair?
No.
Marcus Bagwell?
No.
Okay.
No. This is a DNA match, right? Because Stacy Keibler's pregnant, and I think the suspicion is Buff Bagwell has plowed her. And I once kind of shat all over something that you quite enjoyed as a story with Guerrero and Mysterio and the Dominic.
Oh, yeah. The DNA stuff, yep.
Everything about that was so much better than this. So yeah, I now see how it could have gone.
It's okay not to have liked both. But this is just... do you know how this ended up?
Like in terms of the long-term story?
Uh-huh.
No.
Keibler said, nah, I just made it up, I'm not really pregnant.
But poor David Flair goes through hell here.
So do we. Watching it. Dear me.
Is he is David Flair? Is he a wrestler here? Is he I know they tried to get him in and make him a thing, but has he been having wrestling matches?
I've seen he's definitely had matches on Nitro as well, because I've seen clips of him run the ropes and it looks like somebody's granny. Remember when Snoop Dogg was running the ropes at WrestleMania this year? That's what it looked like.
I mean, David Flair just looks like he was never going to become a wrestler.
He's not got it, has he?
He's not got it. No.
He's doing Flair stuff as well. He's doing, as Mark Madden said, he's doing all the Flair spots, is what Mark Madden said. So he does the sort of forward roll over the turnbuckles. He does the flop. He does the Flair flop, but he's not got it. He looks like a dying swan or something. Buff smashes. Buff is just wrecking him. He smashes Flair on the forehead with a chair, so Flair subtly rolls under the ring apron so that he can blade, clearly, because he comes back up, covered in blood. Mickey J is the referee, sees the blood, calls a halt to the match. For some reason, Luger sort of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Looking absolutely massive. He is coming down to celebrate with Buff, but you, me, and the garden fence all could see what on earth was going to happen here. My favourite bit about it is that Schiavone, after Luger puts up Buff's hand and then clotheslines him, Schiavone says, "How many times is Lex Luger going to turn on people at WCW?" It's like a parody.
Yeah. I think you've given that away a wee bit there, Tony. Well,
here's another question about David Flair after that somehow opens Buff up.
Mm-hmm.
The clothesline. Maybe he got him with his steel plate, maybe. David Flair then gets a DNA sample and Madden says, "Snoochie Boochies, he's got the DNA sample."
What? Pure David Flair when he's getting the blood to the lab guys. Like the whole thing of him walking back with it and then getting it to them seems to take an age. And all I'm thinking is, like, couldn't he's about to just keel over. Couldn't they make like 5 steps towards him, like meet in the middle? Like this poor guy has to walk all the way to them and then he just collapses. But he got the blood to them. It's all good. He got the blood for this now clearly totally unnecessary
bogus pregnancy.
Yeah. I would, like, if you're imagine you're David Flair, right? Your dad's this legendary wrestler. I believe at the time your real life girlfriend is Stacy Keibler, I believe. I don't imagine that bit too much, but anyway. But yeah, it, like, if somebody proposes this to you, do you think I'll just get on the show? This will all be good. You know, I just want to be on the show. Would you not look at it and think, I'm good. I'll just stay back. I don't mind.
Yeah, I have no idea. I wonder how Ric Flair feels about. Well, if you were asked Ric Flair now, he'd probably say it. David Flair was held down by everybody at WCW, and he had the skills to become the greatest champion of all time.
I do get surprised when I watched this, you know, as well, the promo and everything and all the overtop stuff. I do find myself a little bit surprised that Buff Bagwell didn't get a run in WWE. He was there for, they did a match, him and Booker T, I think, just after the buyout.
Yep.
And it was like, I think it even had a WCW announce team and all that, and it was for the title
and all that. Yep.
And I think the crowd didn't go for it at all, and I assume it was Bagwell kind of got the blame for that, because obviously Booker T had a very long, very successful career.
Yeah.
But like just his look and his over-the-top personality, I thought Vince would quite like.
Yeah, I remember Vince mentioning it. Remember when Vince did he was talking about firing people and keeping people,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, "Will it be Big Poppa Pump? Will it be?" And he
Mm-hmm.
did say Buff Bagwell's name. There, somebody must. I think you're probably right. Hey, okay, backstage with Scott Steiner. Is it? I don't think we ever got the name of the girl backstage who's the interviewer.
It's mentioned, I think, when he comes out for his match, but I couldn't make sense of the name.
Of all the people to stand next to it, and instead of talking about him, talk about Goldberg, Scott Steiner's not the person to do that with.
Not happy with that at all.
He's not at all, is he? He's pushing the size does matter catchphrase. I'm surprised he didn't have a t-shirt with it on it. I do like how they're presenting him as just completely off his head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do like that.
Like this, he just is who he is, isn't he? Now, This is, yeah.
There was an episode of Nitro in advance of the pay-per-view where he was sat on commentary, and they were worried about him swearing, and they told him not to swear. So to try and combat that, they just beeped like every second, third word that he said, regardless of what he was saying. So if you're watching it, it was just completely incoherent what he was saying.
Wow.
What can we say about next match? It is for the WCW Commissionership. It's a 3-round kickboxing match between your man, above average Mike Sanders, quite the nickname, and Ernest the Cat.
Why did this exist? Nobody needed this.
When we spoke about this, previously we were like, "Oh, is this their answer to Brawl for All?" They're going to introduce a little shoot match, but it was even worse. It was a worked kickboxing match.
Yeah.
Sanders didn't help matters by coming out cutting a promo and at the end saying, "I'm going to be dead in your ass."
What did that mean? I hated everything about this.
Me too. It's at this point that I realised that there's a little guy in the crowd smack bang in the middle of the hard camera with a Celtic top on. Maybe that had an impact on my mood about this match, but yeah, this was shocking.
I couldn't even get, so there's supposed to be 3 rounds. They're 2 minutes each. There is, by the sounds of it, scoring to be awarded for each thing. So then why at the end do we have to keep going? Because surely there's been scoring for each round. But it's like, is it somebody has to be knocked out? What? But
it was unclear because one of the commentators says something about points, and then one of the other commentators says that there's no points in this match. But they were talking about judges. Yeah, difficult.
They describe it as a fight to the finish, and then there's a count out. I don't.
And they were using this to move the Stasiak stuff forward as well. Him Palumbo fighting over the towel to throw it in because the Cat is having his way with Sanders. Shane Douglas eventually gets in the way and stops Ernest getting back in the ring, and Sanders gets. You can't even win a kickboxing match by count. That's so WCW.
Yep.
Let's have a shoot kickboxing match where the guy wins via count out. Amazing.
So he's the new commissioner now.
Above average.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm sure he'll do a sterling job.
There's not long to go, thankfully.
Of this show or of WCW?
Of WCW.
Backstage, doctors are trying to give Goldberg advice. He is not for taking it, shockingly.
Yeah.
We're then with Mean Gene. He's with Kronik. They're apparently all about breaking necks and cashing checks, which is quite a cool catchphrase. They seem to be like sort of mercenaries. They'll basically fight for anyone, sort of thing. They looked pretty cool. Yeah,
I recognise both. It took me a wee while to figure out who they had been elsewhere in their careers. But yeah, and they talk about if Goldberg can't go, his streak's over, and they get paid either way, so they don't really care. But I think there's also a reference that if Goldberg doesn't win, he's out of WCW, which I don't really think was played up on as a thing. I don't know if they've just said it. Who knows?
I've got a bit of a soft spot for Crush, I think. Quite like Crush.
Okay.
I liked him, Demolition. I liked Hawaiian Crush. Not so much whatever he was when he fought Savage at WrestleMania 10.
Yeah, and he became like a biker guy as well, didn't he?
He did, didn't he? Aye. Was he in DOA? Aye.
I think so.
Aye.
Yeah.
I don't mind Crush. I've said this before, but he's got the best tilt-a-whirl backbreaker in the game.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes. Now we come to the real highlight of the show. We have got the former ECW champion and fat chick thriller Mike Awesome. He's now that 70s guy, Mike Awesome.
That look was really something. Like, I said to you, I think in a message at some point, I see Mike. I really want to like Mike Awesome, like, but my main issue is there really seems to be a big risk factor in a lot of his matches. Like somebody's going to get. It always looked like somebody was going to get very seriously injured, if not killed, in the matches of his we've watched. But I do like him. Aside from that,
Just apart from the risk factor, he's pretty good.
yeah.
Yeah, the match he has at ECW One Night Stand where those two are fighting between tables that are smashed in half and all that's terrifying. He launches the guy outside the ring and all that.
Mm-hmm.
He's on form here then. I think this is the first match I've ever seen that Vampiro's been in. What about you?
I've definitely not seen many. I feel like I've heard more or read more about him than I've actually ever seen in matches.
Right.
And I always thought, is it if you've got Vampiro and you've got, to me, Sting, they are different, but I always thought were they too similar to be on? And then by this point, would Edge and Christian have debuted in WWF as like the sort of vampire guys
Lost
with
Boys
Gangrel?
type. Yep.
Yeah, but I guess this guy was more of an original from that kind of gimmick. I didn't hate it.
The match.
Yeah, but I thought there were some moments.
Well, talking about what you're talking about, Sting, you'll not be surprised to hear that Vampiro and Sting had quite a long rivalry going through the summer of this year.
Oh, okay.
So if there's concerns about them being too similar, then they put them against each other. Yeah, go on. Talk through this match. I think it needs to be watched, this match.
Okay, I've got some notes. It got very physical very quickly.
See, sorry, I should have said this before you start describing the match. Vampiro takes Roman Reigns-esque length of time to get to the ring for some reason.
Does take a while. Yeah.
He appears to be wearing some sort of corset, which was interesting. And he's carrying a samurai sword as well. And I thought he looked a bit like the lead singer of Placebo. But all that aside, he asks that 70s guy, Mike Awesome, to put his title shot that he's got on Nitro the following night on the line for this match. So then Awesome picks up the microphone and I was like, he's going to start saying stuff like groovy and that. He just speaks completely normally.
Yep, totally normal. Yep. He probably wasn't loving the gimmick.
The only part of the gimmick is like his hair, that he's washed his hair. Anyway, go on. Get the brutality.
I've got a few notes. After they've been fighting into the crowd, I think Awesome actually basically throws Vampiro into the crowd, and then there's a spot. There's a few moments that confused me. As much as I didn't hate it, there's quite a few moments. So they've both got chairs, and they hit each other, and now Mike Awesome drops his, but then I don't know why Vampiro drops his, because the ref doesn't seem to be a factor.
No.
Yeah, he's not caring. So you've got your chair, and the other guy's dropped his. But then he really awkwardly drops his as well. Like, almost, I think, tried to make it look like he accidentally did it. It was, I don't know if they were supposed to drop them at the same time or what. It just didn't look the best. I've got Vampiro. Is it Vampiro? Vampiro? Him throwing Awesome kind of over himself halfway along into the ring, which looked pretty dangerous, I thought.
It really did.
Yeah. Like, I couldn't quite grasp whether there were supposed to be any rules here. So I've got Mike Awesome getting a table, and he goes and gets that, puts that in the ring. But then he kind of just throws the table at Vampiro, and the ref he's seeing all this. He couldn't care less.
Stevie Ray actually says, "Is this legal? Or why is this legal?" or something like that.
We've got there's for a wee while, Vampiro is looking under the ring for something. Like he seems to check every side of the ring, and I think there's like a joke made that he's looking for a table, but they've all been used. But
They've run
there
out
are
of
more
them, yeah.
tables appearing later on. Awesome catching him with a big clothesline. Powerbomb by Awesome on the floor for a 2 count. It seems to be false count anywhere.
Yep, the ref starts counting. I was like, what's going on here?
Based on my notes, maybe I did hate this.
There's a point where Awesome's standing in the middle of the ring and Vampiro just jumps on him from the top rope and just lands with his legs around Awesome's head, and they just sort of fall over. Oh my god, it's hilarious.
There's another moment coming up where I'm gonna get the fear again, because we've got them going up to the top, and I know that Mike Awesome is going for an awesome bomb off the top, and I'm just thinking that maybe there's a reason I haven't heard of Vampiro for quite a while. He hits it, but there's like the way Vampiro's head like bounces on the mat at the end. I assume he was legit injured, because he does not get up for a little while by the looks of it. And then I started thinking maybe there's a reason Mike Awesome never really made it to the top in any of the mainstream companies.
So what happened was there was supposed to be a table in the middle of the ring. I wonder if that's what Vampiro was looking for. There was supposed to be a table in the middle of the ring to break his fall. They both just decided to go with it.
To do it anyway.
And do it anyway. He ended up concussed and it broke his neck.
It broke his neck?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So he was out for... I think he was out until the invasion, and then he got a phone call that I read an interview with Vampiro. He said he got a phone call from Bruce Pritchard, and he said, I was looking forward to hearing what you're going to do with me. And he said, well, I wouldn't worry too much about it, because we didn't want you. We've got no use for you.
Oh, like I did, like, as soon as I saw the landing from the move, and then I think they do a slow-mo on it as well, and I was like, no. Like, normally, if this was in a real sport, they would do the whole, we're not going to show you the replay of that. But obviously, they show the replay. And that was when I realised that much as I like the look of Mike Awesome, much as I like some of the moves he can do, that can you imagine if he got brought into WWE and they said to Triple H, you're going to be going against Mike Awesome? It'd be like, yeah, no, I'm fucking not.
He did come in though, didn't he? I think he won the hardcore title when he was still WC as part of like the really early invasion thing.
Yeah, I don't think he was ever quite pushed to the top.
Nah.
See, he was the guy who left for WCW when he was ECW champion.
Yeah,
and that's when they brought
money or something like that. Yeah. It's odd to put that stipulation on the line, but then just have Awesome win anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sure he never won the title the next night. Thankfully, Booker T made it out of that match.
Oh, no.
Oh, dear. So, we're backstage. I need to compose myself. We're backstage, Mean Gene with General Rection. So, was his name Hugh
Moritz for a while, yeah.
So, if he wasn't General, was he supposed to be Hugh Erection, like Hugh G Rection?
Maybe. Yep.
Like, it's really hard. He cuts this sort of passionate babyface promo, like, I've been held down my whole career and I'm going to do it for me, basically, is what he says, because he says, I'm going to do this for Hugh Morris, I'm doing this for Bill DeMott, and it's like, that's you, though.
Mm-hmm.
Has he got, like, a fiend persona where, like, Bill DeMott, Hugh Morris, and Giant Erection are all different parts of his... Anyway. It was a bit...
Unfortunately, I think the final
weird.
Part was absolute asshole trainer in WWE.
Is that who that was? I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
And lots of stuff came out during the... what was it?
All I needed to see was forced some young recruits to wrestle naked, and I thought,
Jesus Christ.
Nah. Well, there can be no reason for that. I think it was
hope
one of them
Albert's,
where there was
hope
one
Albert's not
complaint.
doing that.
I think he's considered a good guy.
He could be the one that's wrestling
I'm
naked.
sure I'm sure I remember being like, I think there was one complaint came out and then a couple more and then just loads of them.
Speaking out, that's what it was called, wasn't it? Speaking
Yeah.
out. Yeah. This was weird because it, like, how are you supposed to take anybody called General? And like you said the last time, his name had been General Erection.
Yeah,
How
I
are
had
you
to look it up to make sure it had actually been that, and it was.
supposed to take that seriously?
I was also a little bit. So I've always liked Lance Storm. I think you have as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing the Team Canada thing here, and I get it for the heat. Hacksaw Jim Duggan aligned with Team Canada, Mr. USA and all that. But the match seemed to be for ownership of a woman called Major Guns.
Yep, she was part
of the title.
Yep. She was part of Team Canada against her will, it seemed.
Yeah.
Duggan looked pretty worrying to me. I get this is the character he's supposed to be playing, but he kind of looked like what you would see walking about in like an old folks' home, just some blithering idiot chatting away to himself. And
I just have to assume or hope that he played it really well. That's
I like that they'd made the US title Canadian title like that. Mm-hmm. That's good. No sort of explanation as to why this was a handicap match, but Lance Storm is the Canadian title holder. It's not a very good match, as I'm sure you would.
Yeah, see, this one seemed to go on a long time as well.
It's hard to write notes about someone called Rection.
I just wrote them all. I couldn't. Fair. I couldn't do it. I wasn't willing to do it. But like, as I was watching, there was a little sequence when I thought, I wish Lance Storm was just in a program with someone, and it was just
just wrestling,
just about the wrestling and who was the better wrestler and that kind of thing. But, yeah.
He's good. He's good in the ring, like really good in the ring. Yeah. There's nothing you can say about this, really, is there? At some point, someone called Primetime comes out to give Duggan his 2x4, but Major Guns taps him on the shins with the Canadian flag, and that seems enough to derail him.
Yep.
Hugh Morris completely misses a moonsault, but apparently that's enough to get the win. And does he pin Storm or Duggan? Do you notice?
Duggan. Pins Duggan.
There you go. Yeah. And Major Guns seems incredibly happy.
Yep. Back with her rightful owner, and she's delighted.
Okay. Next, we get Jeff Jarrett cutting a pretty generic promo on Sting.
Oh, there was one moment that made me laugh out loud, though.
Go on.
It's like I have no idea who the reporter was. It's a blonde woman, and Jeff Jarrett calls her a blonde slapnut, and that made me laugh. And I know he's had this thing. He calls the crowd slapnuts and the opponent slapnuts and all that. It kind of became his thing, but the way he says it to her really did make me laugh.
Nice. They showed it's so inconsistent, these WCW shows, but they showed a package for how this match came about, and they showed Jarrett in the vintage Sting with the makeup, Surfer Sting look with the makeup and the jacket and all that, and I thought, that's cool. I like that sort of thing when somebody does that. Yep. Careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
On paper, Jarrett v Sting sounds alright. What is it with Sting?
Yeah, what you mean? Why do they all hate him?
He's just like the worst booked wrestler of all time.
Yeah. Do you think it's one of those where they're kind of just taking him for granted? Because he's always been there, and he's been a huge name, and he's spent a lot of time near the top of the card. But when you actually think all through our run with him, his opponents, you had Bret Hart, that was good. I think in the early days, did he have anything noteworthy?
He's always been there or thereabouts as far as main event. He had a good match with Sid Justice.
Yeah.
But I think that's 1990, and that's when they did the very first fake Sting with Barry Windham.
Yeah. So yeah, like I could see maybe does he maybe not quite fit in with if they're trying to go with a youth movement, but I think you would never go if you've got an iconic star like that can still go. You would never be like, oh, you're too old. You know, we're not going to be. That's how you elevate the younger guys. That's the guy. You put them with him. They don't even have to go over. You still elevate them just by association.
100%. And the thing is with Sting, I think he's over regardless. He's got that level of superstardom. He could get beat every pay-per-view and he'd still be over and get a pop.
Yeah.
They managed to take this match, which on paper looked like a good wrestling match. Like I said, quite a cool looking build-up with Jarrett dressed as Sting and all that sort of stuff, and just completely Russo it, for the lack of a better word.
Oh. Do you think, like, you know, you talked about the fact Russo has a concussion, isn't there running the show? Maybe he's had a call or given some notes or something like that. Just wondering
Somebody
if he
spilled their coffee on it.
Just wondering if he came up with this while suffering from the concussion. This is the one thing you gotta do.
17 Sting impersonators. So what happens is they try and have a match, but every time they get going, a Sting lookalike from his past, so different versions of Sting appear throughout the match. Surfer Sting, what else we got? Wolfpack Sting comes out at one point looking really happy with life. Crow Sting, Sergeant Pepper Sting, they refer to him as. He's got like the big shoulder pads and that.
Yeah.
There's a really old looking Sting from 2025 or something like that, Stevie Ray says.
Yeah, I was thinking it was I was looking thinking, is it supposed to be that this guy does look like a future old man Sting? Or is it just an old guy they've got to put the thing on? I wasn't sure.
He's like his wig and mask and all that came off it.
Yeah.
There's a silly bit where... Do you know who Chris Harris is, the wrestler Chris Harris, no?
Yes.
That's the only one that I read. So Chris Harris was the one that came from underneath the ring and pulled him.
See, he was quite a big deal in TNA, I think.
Oh, was he?
Harris. Yeah. Big in the tag team with that guy. What's his name? Bobby Roode.
Right, okay.
They had the tag team together for a while, and then
what was this?
I think
was
he had
this
a
the
good
beer
singles
money
run as well.
thing?
Were they Beer Money or were they a different one? They might have been Beer Money. Can't quite remember, but yeah, I think he was a big tag star, and then got a singles run. I think he came in for a little while in NXT, and it just never happened. Yeah.
So he was one of the Stings. He came up through the ring, pulled Sting down under the ring, which is always quite a cool visual. But Sting appeared. Both of them appeared, and the guy ends up with a bloody face, and Sting has beat him up underneath the ring. I've got my notes. How often have WCW actually ran a fake Sting angle? This is ridiculous. This absolutely stinks. There's a bit at the end which infuriated me as well, where fake Sting smashes Sting over the head with a guitar. Real Sting completely no-sells it.
Yep.
Then Jarrett straight away hits him with a guitar, and that was enough to get a 3 count.
It's the way Jarrett swings the guitar.
Must be.
Like, see at the start when they did the build for this, I even quite liked they were doing Jarrett had been dressed up as him and all that, but his main arc seemed to be, you've lost your love of the game. Your head isn't in this anymore. You don't even want to be here anymore. And I had thought a really good way to go with that is you get Sting without all the nonsense in a perilous position where he has to fight and he has to want it and he has to need to come through and win. think of all the things Jarrett could be screaming in his face and all that. You're done, you're washed up, all that kind of thing. But nah, we just do loads of nonsense with fake stings.
I said to you, I listened to Jarrett's podcasts talking about this match, and Conrad Thompson asked him about it and asked his views of what they did here creatively, and he said, I think it would have been great if a different Sting had appeared over the course of a few weeks on a different Nitro or show. He's like, but no all at the same time. He's like, it's just overkill and ridiculous, but he's got a point. I thought that was quite a good insight into the way that his brain works. He's obviously like wrestling through and through. It's quite interesting to think that he's just thought of that like off the top of his head. If we'd done this, it would have panned out a lot better. And there might have been the threat of other stings. You know, like the commentators could have talked about Jarrett's got these impersonators to help him and he can't overcome when he won't. And maybe one of them comes out and Sting absolutely destroys him, which stops any of the others coming out or something. But
and you still could have done the, you know, Jarrett steals a win with a guitar shot to the head. You know, you could have had a normal match and had the same finish.
And Sting got his fire back throughout the match or something like that.
And then, you know, the next night Sting is calling him out. He's back and he wants it, and he wants another go at Jarrett and all. I quite, like I've said before, Jarrett was never really for me in terms of like almost go away heat. I think he's definitely, you know, I listen to his podcast quite a lot, and he's so knowledgeable and insightful, and he has ideas and all that. I think a lot of the time what I hated was the character and the way he was booked, and you were meant to hate the character most of the time, but my hatred tended to make me want to switch off rather than watch him get his ass kicked.
Yeah, same. And like, just thinking about what you were saying there, you could move that into another pay-per-view and you do a cage match. And there's no, and even then Sting's worried about who's coming up front of the ring and all that. Funny and that
given Jarrett was one of the, he's not young, but younger guys that they wanted to go with. You know, he was one of the guys that was positioned near the top. Just by having a few matches with Sting, you're putting him up there.
100%. Well. Next up, we've got Booker T. He is saying, as a favour to Goldberg. So what seems to be the plan was that Booker T versus Scott Steiner for the title was going to be the main event, but Booker T says, Goldberg, I'll do you a solid and let's push our match next, and you can go last, give you a wee bit more time to recuperate. What a good guy.
He's Booker, a gent.
Absolutely. This doesn't seem to have went down well with Scott Steiner, which we come to see. We've got this is funny. So we've got Michael Buffer announcing this because this was going to be our main event. He announces Booker T, and when Scott Steiner is coming down, he says that he's accompanied by his favourite freak, Madeja.
Yeah. Did you see there's a guy in the crowd like flexing his muscles at Steiner? He's not got very impressive muscles, but Steiner's right across, facing up to him. He looks furious.
Steiner does.
Yeah.
I was a bit concerned for that guy's safety.
He does come across as brilliantly unhinged.
He does.
I do. If you're there backstage, I do wonder. You're probably pretty intimidated by it, even if you know this should just be a character.
I think he's at savage levels of believing that he is unhinged.
Yeah.
Because you do believe that he is. And the commentary team are talking about it as well, are saying he's out of his mind, because, and I've got my notes here, I like them saying that because it does actually seem like he is.
Yeah.
This was a really stiff match between the two of them.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if there's some receipts going on or if they just agreed, but it was really stiff.
Yeah. I've never heard anything about animosity or whatever, so I'm assuming they just, this is what we're going to do. Steiner, I really like Booker T. I always have these. He's got something about him. He's obviously he's athletic, but he's charismatic. He's very watchable. And
he was one of the highlights for us when we watched throughout 1998.
Yeah. He was kind of just ascending up the card there, wasn't he? Yeah, and he's obviously, he's made it. He's world champion. They're kind of positioning it a little bit in that he's world champion, but in a sense, he's maybe a little bit of an underdog here. But is it Stevie Ray keeps saying that Steiner won't be a champion? He doesn't have the mentality to be the champion and all that. And he's Booker T's brother. He's backing his guy, but I think he says it quite a few times through the match. And then obviously that's gonna play into kind of where we go towards the end.
Stevie Ray actually grew on me throughout the pay-per-view. The first match, I thought, I don't like this, but he got better and better. Like, I don't know if he got better, but I certainly enjoyed him more and more as the pay-per-view went on.
Yeah, I didn't think he was bad. And also, it's an interesting dynamic because his brother is the champion and is going to be under fire in this main event. And I thought he played that side of it quite well as well, because there's quite a few moments during Steiner domination where he's just quite quiet, which I thought sold it quite well in a sort of concern type way, and maybe too focused on what's going on to actually be speaking. So I thought he played that well.
Nice. There's some great bits where Steiner is covering Booker T. He does it a few times, and when he's covering him, he's staring at Charles Robinson counting. And whenever Booker kicks out, he just goes after Robinson. I've never seen a wrestler do that before. I thought it was amazing.
Nice.
There's some nice bits and pieces. Steiner hits a Samoan drop for the top rope, which was really nice. He hits a couple of nice belly-to-belly suplexes. And immediately when he started doing that, I was thinking of that Triple H Royal Rumble match that they had, where that's all that he does for like a period of 17 minutes or something. I think these two had good chemistry together. We've seen them before, haven't we?
Yeah, I thought, like, I was trying to think in my mind, as a single competitor, I couldn't think of a Steiner match that I thought was better than this. I didn't think it was the best match I've ever seen, but I thought Booker worked really well with him. It just worked. Yep,
I agree. Getting towards the end, Booker hits the axe kick, but Madeja throws in a steel pipe to give to Steiner. The ref tells him he can't use it, so he just absolutely wrecks him. And then, for some reason, puts him in the tree of woe position, upside down, hanging in the turnbuckles. Yep. A bunch of refs come out to try and help, but Steiner's went full shamrock, and he just starts wrecking all the referees. He's wailing on everybody with that steel pipe, which I think must be a foam bat, because he's leathering people.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah. So I think there's one ref basically makes it in and just has time to call for the DQ before he gets destroyed as well. Thought that guy was a hero.
It was Road Dogg's brother, I think.
Oh, is it? Okay.
The one that's in WWF, the referee, he waves it off and then Steiner wrecks him.
Yeah.
And it's at this point, again, that they sell the whole Steiner's off his rocker, because Jeff Jarrett comes down, and I didn't realise that they were aligned.
Yeah.
But Jarrett's trying to calm him down, and he's not having any of it. Brilliant.
I was left thinking, poor Booker, who has been destroyed and has gone through all this abuse. Now he's got to face Mike Awesome the next night.
Oh my God. What a thought. There's some really uncomfortable parts of that match where Scott Steiner's referring to Booker and Stevie Ray as boy over and over. I was just like, oh, that's not dated well at all. But probably about the best match on the card, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was a good story. You feel like, and you can tell it's going somewhere with Steiner. And Booker T, I think, is kind of now, well, certainly through this match, playing this I'm not going to quit, you're not going to take it off me sort of character.
Yeah.
And yeah, I thought it was an okay match. I thought there was enough in it in terms of, like, talked about the suplexes. There were a few, but it wasn't over the top. It wasn't nothing but that.
Yeah.
And there were the Booker T comebacks where he got something going, and Steiner just being a madman, which works.
It's entertaining.
Yeah.
Tell you what's not entertaining. A handicap match between Kronik and Goldberg. When you press the wee button on the remote and you realise that there's 3 minutes left of the pay-per-view and you've still got Goldberg's music to hit and then for him to come out. So Kronik are in the ring. They say, look, this is over. Goldberg's not coming out. We then get a dramatic run from a doctor or something like that to tell the fake Pat Patterson, I don't know what his name is, but he's always there backstage with the guy with the goatee, that Goldberg's been cleared. Yeah, you can take it away because I was sick by this point.
Okay. So Goldberg comes down, jumps right out in the ring. 2-on-1, Kronik get the upper hand for 30 seconds or something like that. They bring a table into the ring, set it up. They're going to try and put Goldberg through it. What a shame that table wasn't there for Vampiro. Goldberg fights out, counters a suplex attempt, spears one of Kronik through the table. So at this point, I realised it was an elimination match because I don't think I'd really been following what it was supposed to be.
Definitely never once said it was an elimination match.
Okay, so it wasn't just me then. And that's the first one eliminated.
His shoulders weren't even down. They were like cradled up by the table.
Amazing.
He pinned his hips.
There's a choke slam by the other Kronik member.
Crush.
Yeah, that's Crush, isn't it? On Goldberg for a 2. Goldberg kicks out. Then he just gets up and spears the other guy. Jackhammer.
That choke slam's a great move as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He had done in like the... What's the thing called? You can see what I'm doing with the hands behind the back. You know what Chris Masters used to do? What's that move called again?
Oh, the something lock.
It had. Yeah. Hard to describe.
I only remember it being referred to as the Master Lock, but obviously that's only when it's Chris Masters doing it, I think.
And Bobby Lashley did it quite recently. Anyway, it was a cool move, but Goldberg just completely no-sold it, got up and speared him, like you said.
Yeah.
Jackhammer.
Jackhammer.
The crowd wins. Goes home happy.
Yeah. And I think the crowd...
Or do they?
I think... Now, when he won the title at the last one, they went mad. They were totally popping for it, and I was like, okay, if that's what they want. It's not what I wanted, but if that's what they want, fair enough. Don't know if it's quite the same reaction here.
Nah.
Lukewarm.
There was a few matches where the crowd, like, they were sitting on their hands, they looked bored.
Yeah.
And this quite fittingly goes off air with Schiavone saying, "We're out of time, good night." And that's it. The journey has come to an end.
We made it.
And we made it, we did. Through the good and the bad. I don't think this was, I think you and I spoke about this, I don't think this was as bad as 99, to be fair to it.
I think 99 was the worst. I think this wasn't good, but it wasn't as bad as that, I don't think.
And even, this might have been better than 98. With Hogan Warrior and all that happened there.
Yeah.
Certainly, I think the earlier ones for me, I certainly enjoyed the most.
I was, because I kept some of my notes and I was looking through like 89, just thinking what was on the card, and that had a lot of what we enjoyed, tag matches. So it felt very old school. It felt like it was right at the point the territories were still a thing. I think the yeah, it
did. It felt like, this sounds ridiculous, but it felt like innocent, like it was innocent fun.
Yeah,
where good guys were good guys and bad guys were bad guys, and nobody's trying to talk about, like Madden's talking about spots, gimmicks. He's talking about at one point.
And I liked some of the, remember really being entertained by Doom, the tag team, and things like that. And we had some stuff with the Midnight Express and Rock and Roll Express, and that all felt like a different era and a fun era. And then it felt like it became a bit samey after that in terms of maybe the WWF stuff I'd grown up watching. It kind of felt like it became more similar to that, and then obviously we went towards the NWO and then the silliness.
We very much went on a trajectory from professional wrestling to sports entertainment, didn't we?
Yeah.
Which is a shame, because they always talked about WCW, they thought that they were successful because they weren't doing what their competitor did, weren't they?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happened. They've went in the exact same road and tried to replicate it, and it's just been difficult to watch at times.
Yeah.
Some highlight, stunning Steve Austin, probably one of the highlights. For me, some of his matches were great. He's brilliant.
That Vader v Cactus.
Yes. And Eddie versus Ray.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie himself and some different matches that he had were great.
Yeah.
Some good bits. We've seen some good wrestling.
We've seen some good stuff. Yeah.
There's been Kevin Sullivan and his granddad or whatever that guy was. But
who was the guy, the thing that appeared in one of the early ones opposing Sting?
The Master? No, not the Master. That was that guy that we were just talking about. Remember Abdullah the Butcher when he got put in the
yes,
the torture thing? Who's this you're talking about?
The
Sting?
Black Scorpion. The Black
Sting.
Scorpion. Yeah.
Amazing. God, to think back, we had a pay-per-view with the Shockmaster on it.
We did. Yeah.
He just had none of his stuff on. He just had a hard hat on, like he'd been working construction.
Yeah. He'd just become an electrician. Yeah. Poor guy.
Brilliant. It's been some good times and some good movies.
Yeah. Been some laughs. Some fun, absolutely ripping the piss out of some terrible stuff as well.
So that begs the question, where do we go next now? Now, do we leave? We finish off the year with the end of our journey and we come back in the new year afresh? I think that's what we'll probably be aiming for, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, no decisions. Because if we were to pull back the curtain, I've changed my mind about 5 times about what we're doing, and you've just agreed every time and just been like, that's fine, that's fine.
I'm fairly easy going with it, but the thing that it's the current front runner, I'm quite enthusiastic about because there'll be a lot of new stuff for me on that.
We're doing that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. We're gonna go TNA. We're gonna go TNA/Impact. We're going to do something similar to what we've done with Halloween Havoc, and we're going to follow the Is it the Bound for Glory pay-per-views we said we're going to follow?
Yes.
Yes, but Bound for Glory, which they reckon is TNA's WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
Why would Slammiversary not? Slammiversary, a brilliant name for a pay-per-view. But anyway, we're going to go Bound for Glory. We've got a few of those lined up, 2005 forward. So, like you say, those will be brand new to both of us. You've watched a bit of TNA, haven't you?
Yeah, I remember when it first was coming on. There used to be a TV channel called the Wrestling Channel, and it had a lot of TNA stuff on it, and it used to show the TV and the pay-per-views. But I think as soon as I didn't watch many of them. I watched a little bit, and there were there's obviously guys that go on to become pretty major stars elsewhere that get spotlighted, but I didn't watch a lot of it. So there might be one or at very most two of the shows I've seen, but I actually doubt it. I think they'll all be brand new to me.
The only concern I have is that Russo and Ferrara end up booking at some point in TNA. When does Hogan appear in TNA? Do you know? Is that a bit further down the line? 2010ish or something, maybe?
Maybe. I'm not
Bischoff
too
does
sure.
as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, but Bischoff, I think they both had a bit of sway behind the scenes as well.
Shocking.
I don't think Bischoff was the showrunner in the same way that he was for so many years in WCW, but I think he had an influence anyway.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Like you say, it's brand new. We're not going over new ground. We're not going over old ground.
Yeah.
Oh well, we should do that. And should we? It's still October. Bound for Glory is the October pay-per-view. Should we keep our little movie segment going?
Yeah, why not? That's been really good fun, and I think we'll sort of be skipping to. It's only a few years into the future, but it maybe might feel like a new era of movies. I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can tell you that if we're starting 2005, which we said, then we'll be looking at The Descent.
Okay.
To
nice.
watch, which is a great film.
Yep.
Let's not bother looking at the pay-per-view. We don't want to sicken ourselves before the new year started.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to just watch it with totally fresh eyes and no real expectations, not knowing what I'm about to see. Yeah.
Nice. Hopefully, no Nash or Hall. That's what I'm hoping for. That would sicken me straight away. But anyway, let's not start on a negative.
Yep.
Tip. Okay. Well, for 2023, we shall sign off. Thank you for listening. If you're listening, we appreciate it. I think we've enjoyed ourselves since the summer, since we started on this Havoc journey. So
yeah,
we hope to continue that. Anything to sign off with, Adam?
No, just wish everyone, all of our listeners, a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Beautiful. And to you as well. You enjoy yourself.
You too.
And we shall speak in the new year, 2024.